Hey everybody, this is going to be the gentlest possible introduction to UV mapping. So first I'll explain what it is, okay? Um, UV mapping is like, it's another property of a vertex. Um, you've got your x coordinate, right? You got your y coordinate, your z coordinate, and then you've also got your UV and W coordinates. W is not so important to us yet. Will come up later down the line. But you've got an image, right, which has the image has its x-y coordinates, x along the page and y up and down the page, right? What the UV coordinates in a vertex do is it will tell your renderer or whatever you're using where to map, where on the image to map the this vertex. Okay, so to show you that in action, I guess we're gonna load up a unwrap UVW modifier, which you can treat this as if it's a viewer for your UV coordinates. Okay, if you collapse this, it goes it sort of bakes the UVW data into the vertices for good. Whereas when you've got this open, you can still sort of edit them, and you're working in this modifier. And then if you were to delete the modifier rather than to flatten it, all the work you'd done in the modifier would go. So remember, delete if you want to get rid of whatever you've done. Collapse all if you want to keep it, like lock it in sort of. So you'll go open UV editor in the unwrap window, and this thing will come up. This shows us, you can select polygons in this mode still, and it will show you how it's mapped out to the image. Okay, so you can see there's this checkered part of the image, which is the 0 to 1 range. So this is UV coordinate 0, 0, 0, and this is 1, 1, 1 here. As you go on, it'll be 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then negative 1, negative 2, etc. What happens is if you go over the 0 to 1, it will start scrolling, and it'll just repeat the same texture ad infinitum. Okay, so you can take this outside that box and it will just repeat into it again. So about the checker map, a quick note about that is if you go up to this top right of this window and click checker map again, okay, it will actually show up the checker map on your model, which is handy for checking how much resolution you're giving to certain areas. So if I was to scale this right down, you would see that the checker map is less dense, and you can see that this is copying a lot less resolution than here and here and here, because it's just using up less of the image. Okay, so like I said, this is just where it's mapping each. It goes by vertex technically, but I mean you can treat it as if it's showing where the faces are mapped, and you'll still be fine. Okay, so that's what the UV coordinates are. There's a few ways you can project them. Okay. The first one I'm going to show you just real quickly is planar, because what we've got now is basically a planar map from all sides. A planar map is if you're looking just side on at the image, and it just projects the coordinates that way. Okay, so if you scroll down, you can see all these options here. You've got planar, cylindrical, spherical, and box. Okay, so I can click planar here. You can see it's actually aligned to the wrong axis when I've done it by default. There's a little yellow thing that comes up. That's the actual projection plane. That's how it's projecting. So right now it's projecting as if I'm taking a vertical slice through this thing, and the UV coordinates look like that as a result. Okay, and if I was to unselect that face, it looks stretched. It's got like a stretchy, horrible. If I scrolled this over a bit, you'll be able to see. It's just like a slice straight through that image as if it was almost 3D, right? So that's wrong. I can change which axis I align it to by clicking X, Y, Z. You can see this yellow thing updates to reflect that. Okay. So that's the correct axis, the X1, because then it's got 1 to 1. And what it'll also try and do is it'll try and map it to within the 1 to 1 range. Okay, so remember that. You can also do best align, view align. If I go view align, what that'll do is it'll project it as if it's from the camera, pretty much. It will just align it to the camera. Okay, so it's a little bit wonky. It looks kind of correct from the camera view, but then you'll see it's kind of stretched there. So I can, if I go on a shear viewing angle to that and go view align, you can see that the box is aligned to the camera, and I turn around and it's as if I shot that image out of the camera at it, and it's stretched along the surface like that. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You can align this to anything, and when you've got this on, you can see there's a blue thing over it. If you've got cylindrical on, it have a little blue thing. They're depressed in. You can move them then, and you can see it's moving this little yellow gizmo instead of anything else. I can also rotate it. Okay, so that's actually rotating the projection plane, and I can get some pretty wacky results out of that, which you generally don't do that much, but it's worth keeping in mind, because when you've got this on, you can't go ahead and select other faces. Okay, so if you find that you can't select anything, just check that, tick that off, and then you can start picking other things. The other thing which should be obvious is you can grab groups of things, planar map all of them. Let's say I'll align it to the view here. You can see on this side it's kind of okay, and on these sides it's completely stretched to all whatever. You can also do a thing called best align, okay? And what that will do is it'll get everything you've selected, and it'll try and find an average between all of them, okay? So another thing to keep in mind is have a look at this UV window. It's actually projected as if it's a little isometric projection, and these seams are stitched together. So anything on the image is actually it's actually connected up. You'd never do that with this particular graphic, but you can see what's going on there. I purposefully picked a simple graphical thing so that you could see what was going on and how it flows over the edges and things like that. The other thing in here, you can pick the actual texture as well if you want to actually align it to where it is on the texture. And of course, you can move any element of the UV around like this. In Max, it calls them elements. You can select by an element if you want to. I'm just moving these other faces out of the way. Here, select by element, and then when you pick that, it'll grab everything that's connected to it. Some people call them islands, some people call them clusters, some people call them shells. If you turn that off again, right, it'll only pick the one face. You can also pick edges and vertices in there. But so like I said, if you go collapse all, you will not lose your UVs. Okay, you don't lose anything by collapsing the UV modifier. You can open it up again. Okay, unwrap UVW. Okay, and open the UV editor, and everything's still there, so you're good to go again. You can flatten it any time and you won't lose anything. If you hit delete, you make edits and delete, anything you edited in that instance of the UV map modifier will go. So I can edit this, right? I can make this, let's say we make it tiny. Okay, now it's just right inside the red of the roundel. If I go delete, I lose all those changes. Okay, that's an important thing to keep in mind about the UV modifier. Okay, that's enough for now. I'll do some more things on UVing tonight, but that's just an intro on how it works. Hope that was helpful. Later.